Blimey, I'm never living up to that. Did anyone spot the rainbow earlier that I ordered? Pretty awesome, hey? If you've not had a look out, have a look out. Look at the sky, look at the clouds. It is amazing. What a venue. So a quick thank you to all Owen Partners for putting this on. What a day of inspiration. I might give you a little flavour of inspiration as I talk to you a little bit about what we do at the Met Office. Hopefully you'll get some randomness from me and you'll go away a little bit inspired by some of the stuff we do. I'll try and work the clicker. I may laser you at some point, so let's just see how it goes and just go with the flow. So, anybody, any idea what the Met Office does? You probably have got more of an idea than I had when I first joined. So I maybe actually thought it was the police, the Met Police, and I thought, that looks like an interesting advert. It just happened to be in design and content, and so I went for it. This is 10 years ago, scarily enough, so I actually joined the Met Office when I was 18. Classic age joke there. So back then, I wasn't sure, but now it's a world of content, it's a world of design, it's a world of social, it's a world of customer experience. All these things colliding together. It's not just designing weather icons, which is what I thought I would do to start with. I do a little bit of that, but not much. So I'm guessing you know us because you want to know whether it's going to rain today or not. That's why some of the people are left, probably, because they're going to dodge the showers. I'm reliably informed that a cold front has passed by. Is that right, Bonnie? Who's my colleague here today? A cold front passed by. So that's the only bit of weather that I'm going to be able to get into this presentation. So if we've got any weather questions at the end, they're going to be directed to Bonnie. Anything else, I'll be able to field, obviously. So did you check the weather today? Do you follow us on social? Wow, resounding. Resounding. Perfect. One, that's good. One's good. Normally it's stone cold silence. But what do? We do much more than the weather, actually. We do some other really cool stuff. So we've got some amazing scientific excellence and brains in our building and in the organisation. So we've got world-class climate scientists. There are about 1,500 of us across the organisation. We also monitor the weather in space. Is that even a thing? Yes, it is. And it's super cool, but that's a whole different presentation. Ultimately, though, we're around because we're here to... I've realised that I've just been drifting away from the mic, so shout if you can't hear me. We're here to help you make better decisions to stay safe and thrive. It's a whole different world for everyone now. Can't escape me now. Our job as a content and marketing team, though, is all about trying to engage audiences. So we take really quite scientific and complex information and we're trying to make people be engaged and informed and understand and then ultimately able to act. So what we do is actually quite important, and that didn't hit me, certainly 10 years ago, that didn't hit me then. I thought it might just be interesting, but it's super interesting. And I'm going to give you a flavour of how that happens. So this was our world, and has anyone got an idea of who this dude is?
And that is going to head across the
Michael Fish, yeah, absolutely. So he's currently saying that there's no hurricane on the way, and we're often known for this kind of forecast because we relied on TV, and people relied on TV to get their weather. That is not the case anymore. You might just think, though, that we've just expanded.
There's a big change taking place with our weather over the course
of
the weekend.
Got a fancier TV that's a touchscreen. Well, we kind of have. But we haven't just done that. So actually, Alex can now draw on this and take you through that story in the same way. Technology has evolved, absolutely. But the world has changed as well. We now live in the world, I don't need to tell you this, we now live in this disruptive world where everything's competing for our attention. In that presentation before, we talked about 11 million bits of data every single millisecond. Stuff is grabbing and competing for your eyes. And we have to recognise that. So our world now is totally focused on the mobile. And again, it's pretty cliched, but if it doesn't work on mobile, it's not working for us because that's where most people are looking and living. And if you're anything like me, are pretty obsessed by, you've got to be careful because it is a total obsession, and social is as well. So our world now looks this kind of chaotic. We're across everything. We're echoing what everyone said before me, in terms of we need to be where those conversations are happening and where people are consuming that information. So we're across Snapchat, podcasts, the app, the website, all sorts of different places. I've gone a little bit Liam Gallagher now, actually, so I've got to make sure I don't drift into that. Ultimately, this slide is really boring, but what the important thing is that it's a connected experience is what we're trying to deliver. So you can see there's loads of stats across how many followers we've got. Stats are pretty boring to me, but the important thing is that centerpiece. The thing when you present, it always seems really glossy. This is super hard, and also really messy. But that's our goal, and I think that's the important thing. The main thing is we can't tell someone it's going to snow on Instagram and it's going to rain on Twitter, but out the window it's sunny. So what we're trying to do is really connect that message. One of the cool things is you can tweet us for the weather forecast, soon to be across our other channels as well. It would be cool if people just drift out of my presentation for a little bit and tweet the Met Office and see if we reply within 10 minutes. It'll be funny because our weather desk will have to deal with all of your inquiries. So I absolutely give you permission to not listen to me for a little bit, which you might not have been doing anyway. So, weirdly enough, for the Met Office and for an organisation the size that we are, we've not got a social media manager. We operate with social champions. So social champions effectively are a bunch of people that are really interested in the different channels. So there's no point having someone on Facebook that doesn't use Facebook. So we've got different members of the team, the wider team, the marketing and comms team, who look after the channels. And their role really is to identify trends, stuff that's happening that's new, opportunities, and to feed that back in when we come together as a team to actually start to define the direction of those channels. So as a team, a smaller team, we've got a content team. So there are 10 of us in that content team. I haven't done the maths, there's probably 11 or 12 pictures up here, so don't call me out on that. But it's a real mix of skills, and we have to consider ourselves content producers. So I may have joined the Met Office as a new media designer, but that's no longer my skill set. I have to be able to do lots of different things, and that is an increasingly clear theme as we go forward. We've got presenters that are able to operate the camera. We've got designers that are able to edit. We've got studio technicians that are able to post on Facebook. All these things are skills that need to collide in order to be as successful and agile as you possibly can be. We split our content into two camps. We've got real-time stuff, so will it rain, is it cold, will it snow? And we've got evergreen stuff, so stuff that basically we know people are searching for, and we can check different stats, Google stats, to see whether they're searching for a piece of content, and we fill that void. So that kind of is a bit of a positioning piece for us, because it positions us as the expert in that area. So why is the sky blue? Or why isn't the sky blue in today's case? We know people are searching for it, and so we make that bit of content, and they get driven to our channels. Tell me if I'm rattling through it, but I'm guessing people are bored, so I'm going quick. Stay with me. That is me. That isn't me. It looks like me. I've only got 2 scarves on there, so it must have been pretty cold. What we're doing here, I'm doing my morning meeting. So the chief, every single morning, he briefs the whole of the office and anyone that wants to listen with the scientific details as to what's happening with the weather. He talks about occluded fronts and some other weather stuff. And then it's stuff that people like me can't understand. But there are people that do understand it. People that do understand it come down to our meeting in the morning. And we've got buy-in from across the organisation and representatives that then come and talk us through the key points of the weather story. And what we're doing every day, day in, day out, is meeting to discuss what the important information is that we need to communicate. And we're really trying to think about why people care. And this is our editorial approach. It looks really messy because it's a whiteboard, but it's the best way of kind of writing stuff down, scrubbing it out, and moving on. This meeting takes 15 minutes max, but it sets the tone for the rest of the day, and it ensures we put a consistent message out across all of our channels. We then move from that in a bit more detail, actually, very quickly. We talk about the UK and global weather, what's of interest, but really importantly, in this middle section, we look at what else is happening in the real world. We need to make sure that we're not totally focused on weather in our world. We need to look outside and see, is something else trending? If everyone's talking about the royal baby or Brexit, we may be fighting against headlines that we just simply can't compete with. So we need to be really aware of that. And then what we do is we move along, we work out what the story is and how we're going to tell it on Twitter. But we recognise we can't tell it in the same way on Twitter as we do on Snapchat, because they're different channels, they've got different audiences. But we're making sure that that same story is being told across them all. So that is the mess of the editorial board. It has to go into a live task list. This is definitely an area that we could improve, and someone like Orlo would be able to help us without any shadow of a doubt by the looks of things. But what this ensures, having something like this, means that you can actually make stuff happen, and that's part of my job. You could talk about things in meetings, as you all know, but to actually make it happen is a different thing. We have to make it happen each day. This becomes a task list where we know who's doing what and when it's going out across our channels. We have various different formats. We've got a very, very strong visual brand that we work to. We've got various different formats that not only speed up delivery, but they ensure that things are a consistent look and feel and make sure that they're that authoritative look of the Met Office. They go across all of our different social channels as well, and we're putting out regular posts and formats each week in, week out. And here's an example of how that might look across the channels. Again, I'm telling you stuff you know, no doubt, but we're working to portrait, we're working to 4x5, 2x3, we're really aware that stuff on Twitter will crop if it doesn't animate in any way. We have to be obsessed as a team in order to make sure we're not making people work for that information. And in some cases, it's life-saving information that we're telling people. So we need to make that user journey as seamless as possible and as easy as possible. And we also work to the idea of pillar content. Again, this is probably not a new concept to you, but the idea that we create something once and then we create little offshoots of content off the back of that. So over on this far side, on the big screen, we've got a YouTube video that's maybe 2 or 3 minutes long. That would go on, as I say, on YouTube. It's designed so that you sit back and relax and watch it. So it's perfect. Perfect piece of long-form content. Some beautiful weather scenery. But if we were to think about that on Facebook and Twitter, we wouldn't post the same thing because we know that it's a different platform. So suddenly we go from a top 7 and we're counting backwards down from a top 5. We're giving it a little bit of pace. We're annotating it to pick out the bits that are interesting. We're making people think, oh, hold on, I really want to see what's at number 1 because this is going to be an exciting cloud. You might not get to see it, unlucky. But how would we treat that again when we get onto stories? Well, it's a whole different design challenge because now we've got 15 seconds to operate with. Do we chunk it up? It's a lenticular cloud. Do we chunk it up? Do we do 2 per segment? How do we treat it? They're all design decisions that we've got to think about and consider. Enough clouds. We also do some fun stuff, but it's important it's accurate if we do it. So we couldn't do this alongside a severe weather warning because that just wouldn't land. It doesn't make sense. But it's an example of pillar content again. So over here we've done a Halloween forecast, as you can see, and then this is how we treated it on stories. So we brought in a little bit of gamification to tap your way through to get to the content and ultimately swipe up to a different channel. So we're really trying to connect our channels and bring people across all the different kind of bits of information that we've got. Everyone still with me? Yes, perfect.
Just to let you know, that responded within 4 minutes.
4 minutes. Woo! That is good, thank you. So that's better than when I asked them. I'm going to do that from now on. The wife responds in 10 minutes, so it's much better that way. Right. To know what happens and what works, we keep our eyes open, to be honest. We're on social media all the time, as I say, but by looking at what other people are doing, you begin to realize the patterns and trends that are happening. And that informs the work that you do because it's informing the way people are consuming information themselves. Some of these things aren't looping, but what we had is the way things are being subtitled and the way things are being split-screened. There are really clear themes that are coming about 6, 12 months ago, and you begin to understand how people are beginning to bring in kind of spoken word versus subtitled stuff. And so keep your eyes open. That's the main message of that bit. And we get out and about as much as possible. We've got to make sure we're not in that Met Office bubble. We need to get out and about and speak to people. And that includes running workshops with other companies, such as Innocent. We've done uni sessions, lots of different uni sessions, where it acts as user insight, but also acts as giving back some of our knowledge and making students think about where the designs are going. And we brought other kind of big agencies along with us on that journey. Sorry if we've worked with you and your logo's not up there. It's a bit of a mashup of stuff. Quick glimpse as to what we've got across some of our channels. I won't go into them very much detail. You'll be relieved to hear I won't be on for much longer. Instagram, so a bit of an evolution. We started by posting pictures of dogs in leaves and lizards playing guitars. And it was at that moment we thought, what the heck are we doing? What's that got to do with our purpose? So yeah, it's going to grab us likes, without a doubt, but we really need to be thinking about why we exist. Why is that of any benefit to anybody? And that's what we started doing. And it makes us feel good to say that we went from 22 to 91k in just over a year. Everybody's Instagram grew at the same time. So we'll rejoice in it for a second, but we won't be naive enough to think that it was only us and that reason alone. But what we are now delivering is something that's useful to someone, as opposed to some random pictures that have nothing to do with the Met Office. And one of the things we put it down to when we first started, we jumped on stories. So we weren't afraid to give it a go. Again, we very, very quickly thought, how could we be creative with this? And we got some really good creative press from Creative Block, and we're recognised in various different areas around our kind of false gamification of stories. And this all goes back to the social champions model. We had someone who's an Instagram champion within the design team that's been using Instagram for years. And so they knew immediately what other people were doing and how they were working and the engagement they were getting. And so they then brought those ideas to the table. And as an organisation, we weren't afraid to try those things, to try and reach new audiences. So that was a few of the examples. Snapchat. You might not think we're on it. We are. Why are we on it? Because traditionally we reach that older demographic. People 50 plus, we know, trust us, other than the hurricane forecast. But we want to try and reach everybody. Our remit is not just to tell people 50 plus that it's going to be really bad weather. We need to let everybody know that it's going to be bad weather. And this gives us an opportunity to start doing that. It's very easy in terms of the amount of production needed. It's great for our presenters and for our training around the presenters. And we're able to then do those kind of workshop sessions with different universities and test groups to be able to work out what really resonates with them and at what sort of times. So we know that by posting at 3 o'clock, that's when a lot of the students actually are leaving school and are allowed their phone again. So if we were posting at 2 o'clock, we're missing out on those initial big hits. So we've had some good insight into this. And then I'm going to whiz past that one. Again, steady growth. We've got a great relationship with them. YouTube, we do tons of presented forecasts. It's a great platform for us to post that sort of stuff. That kind of regular publishing is absolutely vital and works perfectly for how YouTube operates. We also do many bespoke forecasts, and it gives them a real chance to actually talk you through the uncertainties of weather. We find now that because we're giving such an ongoing story across all of our social channels, we get a lot less negativity around our forecasts because we're taking people on that journey. We're talking about uncertainty. There's now not a wait of 6 p.m. on TV to 6 p.m. on TV the next day when weather's changed so much. We're telling you it 5 times a day on our YouTube channel. We're telling you it 24 times on our Twitter channel, around the clock, 365. So that is really, really important for the user because weather changes so quickly. We do stuff for our evergreen. So actually, this is just an example of how we've built up our skills in-house. So we've learned as a team animation. So recognizing years ago that animation was starting to take over social and be the way to communicate stuff. We didn't have those skills in-house, but as an office, we weren't afraid to invest in that. And we set ourselves the challenge to actually produce a video each week as a starter. And that went on our YouTube channel where you can learn about weather that started to plug those gaps that people were searching for. We now use that every day, day in, day out. We're creating animations within 10 minutes sometimes, all because we invested to start with. And we do a live each week. No doubt you will watch it. It's across all of our channels. Anyone who's got any kind of interest in weather is absolutely, it's a must-see. And
Alex, what are you going to be doing?
I'm going to exit stage right and just answer questions. So please send your questions in. We are live on Facebook, we're live on YouTube, we're live on Periscope. We're keeping a monitor to any questions you have coming in about any subject related to the weather, and I will be sitting just there.
So for years, we didn't want them to replicate TV because we moved away from TV, but then everybody with their trends started copying TV with their live formats. So we asked them to copy TV again, so it's crazy. These things go in cycles, but the important thing is we're across all of our channels and we're cross-promoting those channels and saying consistent thing. This gives us a real opportunity to listen to people and to engage with people week in, week out. We also give all of our stuff away. There's only a few slides left, seriously. We give all of our stuff away to news and media outlets, and that's to make sure that our message is spread and that we've got a press office that are dealing with inquiries to help manage that message. But we're creating stuff anyway, so it may as well be used by the Mail online, it may as well be used by the Sun. And they're actually, by having the Met Office logo on, you know it's trusted advice, rather than them making up the fact that it's going to be the coldest winter on record ever. The big freeze is coming. It's not. Don't quote that. Ross says the big freeze is coming. And then you can see, here's how some of it gets spread across the landscape of media. And this is twice daily we're sending stuff out. And you can see we start to get into areas like Lab Bible with stuff that's a little bit different than the norm. We also use targeted content to make sure that if we've got weather warnings, targeting on paid content means that we can really make sure that is a relevant message to the audience, so that ultimately we're keeping the right people safe at the right time. No point you knowing about a weather warning if it's down for Torbay. And then we work with partners to amplify our content. So we make sure that actually, are there things that align to our purpose, like the RAC and keeping people safe? The two things go hand in hand. So we actually work with them to amplify both messages. Again, ultimately to keep people safe and able to thrive. What's next for content? We've got to keep our eyes open, without a doubt. The big question is TikTok or not TikTok? We think we will quietly enter TikTok's land soon, so watch this space. Who knows? There's a shift. It's no longer just music. There feels more of a kind of synergy towards Instagram stories. It feels like we could probably do very similar content very easily. Big reports say that there's huge opportunity for kind of views on that content, so it seems like a no-brainer at the minute. And of course, the chance to actually have a voice in climate change when we've got world-leading experts under our roof is a huge opportunity for us. Let me take that opportunity as well to breathe and to allow you to follow us across social media to make sure that you don't get wet on your journey home. And I think I'm there. Hope that was okay.
Ross, that's fantastic. Any questions from the audience on any of that? One gentleman at the front here. Wait for the microphone 1 second.
Just about your syndication of content, do you get worried about your brand and the quality of that being affected by who you syndicate to? Because you're obviously known for the quality of the data. Some of the publications that you were syndicating to there probably aren't known for that. So do you worry about that? Do you try and control it, or do you just let everybody use it at will?
Yeah, we let everyone use it, and we make sure it's attributed. So the fact it's our strong visual brand, we've always got the logo. We think that it wins more things than it loses. So the fact that even if they're running a story, sometimes the Mail will run a story about it being the coldest winter, but actually it'll have Met Office content that will then correct the fact that what they've said isn't right. So we think actually it works in our favour more than it doesn't. Yeah.
Yes, one more question. Just bear with me 1 second.
Hi, could you please confirm if there are 6 or 7 colours in the rainbow?
I know. I
I'm
almost
confused
referenced
now.
that earlier. I was stunned by that. I kind of assumed that the one on the right where it had 7 was correct. To me, that was the rhyme. I was doing the rhyme in my head over and over again. I am not a trained meteorologist, so I cannot confirm it, but my design eye gives me 7, I think.
Okay, one more question in the front.
Amazing talk, by the way. Incredible.
Thanks. Appreciate that.
Loads of questions, but what I take from that, above anything else, is it seems you have a lot of freedom with how you put the content out, how you use the channels, the messages. Is it self-regulated within the team? Do you have an approval process for any of it? It just seems completely different to how a lot of content gets put out within businesses. Yeah,
Great question. I suppose over the years we've earned a bit of freedom in as much as we've proved that what we do, we've made some good choices, and I guess we're just bold in many ways. So I think freedom is something that you can create yourself. So by trying stuff and showing people and making sure you're selling it in at the right levels to say, look, this is important, this has worked, and ultimately having your eye on the purpose and making sure you're doing what you're doing because of the reason the Met Office exists or where we're trying to get to as a global leader in weather and climate science, then I think as long as you've got your eye on those things, you can make a lot of things happen. Same for any organisation. As long as you've got an eye on the overall objectives, then just go and do it and make it happen. I don't know if that answers your question, but...
Okay, please join me in thanking Ross this afternoon.